The creek had been dry for 2 years. I knew that. I had watched it go, first the flow slowing to a trickle in the summer of 1933, then the trickle going to standing pools, then the pools going to dark, wet patches in the sand, then the sand going pale and cracked and ordinary. My grandfather had called it the Little Medicine. He had named it that because he said the water had a particular quality in dry years, that it ran clear when everything around it was going to mud, that you could count on it. He had built the homestead 50 yards from the bend where it curved south, because he understood that a farm is only as good as its water. I had been walking the dry bed that morning because I had run out of other things to do. That is an honest account. The cattle were in the near pasture. The fence line had been walked the day before. The north field that I had planted in April with the last of the seed money had produced nothing. The seed had gone into the ground right ahead of a week of wind that had taken the topsoil and the seed with it. And what was left was the kind of field that makes a man understand at the cellular level what the word loss actually means. I had looked at that field on a Tuesday in June and had the specific thought that I was the last of 3 generations of Aldersons to farm this ground, and that I might also be the last. And I had not been able to find an argument against it strong enough to matter. So I was walking the dry creek bed on a July morning in 1935, which was the summer after Black Sunday, which means you already know what kind of summer it was. The dust had thinned, but not gone. The sky had the particular bleached quality of a sky that has been through something and not recovered. The cottonwoods along the bank were still alive. I had always taken that as a sign of something, though I could not have said what. And the dry sand of the bed was still soft underfoot in the way of sand that used to be a creek bottom and hasn't forgotten it. I came around the bend where the creek curved south and stopped. There was a truck, a Ford, maybe 1929 or 1930, dark blue under the dust, parked with its nose toward the bank at an angle that told me immediately it had not parked there on purpose. The right rear wheel was at the wrong angle, the axle had gone, or the wheel had pulled from the hub, and the truck was sitting on its frame on that side. A canvas had been strung from the truck's side mirror to a stake in the sand, making a rough awning over the truck bed, and under the awning, on a folded blanket, a child was asleep. A woman was crouched at the broken rear wheel examining something. She heard me before I spoke. She stood up and turned in one motion, and she had a tire iron in her right hand, and she was holding it in a way that was not aggressive, but was not decorative either. She was not performing calm. She was calm. We looked at each other across maybe 30 feet of dry creek bed. "I'm from the farm north of here," I said. "This is my family's land." She didn't lower the tire iron immediately. "I know I'm off the road," she said. "I'm not here by choice." "I can see that," I said. She looked at me for another moment with the watchful dark eyes. Then she set the tire iron on the truck bed and wiped her hands on the canvas coat she was wearing over her dress despite the July heat. "Lena Marsh," she said. "My daughter Clara is asleep in the truck. We've been here 3 days." 3 days. I looked at the camp, the canvas awning, the folded blankets, the small cook set up beside the truck with a tin pot and a coffee can, and a paper bag that I could tell from here had very little left in it. 3 days on a dry creek bed in July in Kansas with a 7-year-old child. "Your axle?" I said. "The right rear," she said. "It went on the dirt road about a mile back from the highway. I got the truck this far and then I couldn't get it any further." She said this without complaint, just as the sequence of events it was. "I've been waiting for someone to come past." "Nobody comes past," I said. "This isn't a road, it's my fence line." She absorbed this with the expression of a woman who has been absorbing difficult information for longer than 3 days. "I know that now," she said. "Where I thought I was turning off was—" She stopped. "It doesn't matter where I thought I was turning off." I looked at the truck. I looked at the child asleep under the awning. I looked at the creek bed and the cottonwoods and the bleached Kansas sky. I was a man with a farm that was failing and a mortgage coming due in September and no particular surplus of anything, not money, not food, not time, not energy. The sensible thing was to tell her how far she was from the highway and go back to my fence line. I was sensible about most things. I had been sensible my whole life. Sensible hadn't saved the creek, or the North Field, or the 3 years of planting that had gone to dust. "I've got to come along in a floor jack in the barn," I said. "I can look at the axle." She looked at me with the dark, watchful eyes. "I can't pay you," she said. It was not an apology. It was information. "I didn't ask you to," I said. I went back to the barn and got what I needed and came back. The axle had not broken through. It had pulled from the hub on the right rear, which was fixable if I had the right parts, which I did not, but which I could jury-rig well enough to get the truck to the highway, and from there to Pratt, where there was a man named Fowler who did automotive work and charged fare. The jury rig would take the better part of a day. I started on it. Clara woke up about an hour into the work. She came around the side of the truck and stood watching me for a while without speaking, which I appreciated. She had her mother's eyes, the dark, watchful kind, and the expression of a child who has learned to assess situations quietly before committing to them. After a while, she said, "Are you fixing it?" "Trying to," I said. "Mama tried," she said. "She couldn't get the part to go back." "It's a two-person job," I said. "She'd have needed someone to hold the hub while she drove the pin. Hard to do alone." Clara considered this with the seriousness she appeared to bring to everything. "We've been doing a lot of things alone," she said. I looked up at her. "I expect you have," I said. Lena was at the cook setup making something from what remained in the paper bag. She moved with the efficient economy of a woman who has learned to make less into more, measuring things by eye, keeping the heat low to extend the fuel, the practiced arithmetic of someone for whom every unit of everything counts. She brought me water at mid-morning without asking whether I wanted it, just set the cup in the sand beside where I was working and went back. It was the best water I had tasted in a long time, which told me she had carried it from somewhere, rather than taking it from the truck's depleted supply. At noon, she called us both to eat. The food was beans and a piece of cornbread split 3 ways, which was all there was, and which she had divided with the specific fairness of a woman who has had practice at this. She gave Clara the larger of the 2 adult portions without making it obvious. I noticed and said nothing. We ate in the shade of the truck. Lena told me she was from outside Joplin, Missouri, that her husband had died in April of dust pneumonia, that she had a sister in Bakersfield who had been there 2 years and was doing well enough to have a spare room. She said all of this the way she said everything, plainly, without asking for sympathy, just establishing the facts of the situation the way a person establishes the facts of a map. This is where I started. This is where I am. This is where I am going. She did not mention 43 cents. I learned that later. I told her about the farm. Not everything, not the mortgage or the September date, but enough. The 3 generations, the creek, the North Field that had gone to nothing in June. She listened the way she did everything, completely. And when I finished, she said, "You're not leaving." It was not a question. "No," I said. She looked at the dry creek bed. "My husband wouldn't leave either," she said. "He died on the land." I didn't say anything. Some things deserve silence. "I'm not saying you're wrong," she said. "I'm saying I understand it." I worked the axle through the afternoon. Clara helped in the ways a 7-year-old can help, handing tools, holding things steady when I needed a third hand, providing a running commentary on what she observed that was occasionally useful and always honest. She told me her father had been good with engines. She told me she missed him the way she would tell me the temperature, as a fact about conditions. She was a remarkable child. I did not say this to her because I was not sure she needed the observation, but I thought it. By late afternoon, I had the wheel back on the hub well enough to move the truck if we were careful about it, and the question was whether to move it that evening or wait for morning light. And the answer was morning because the dirt road back to the highway had soft shoulders, and I didn't want to lose the wheel again in the dark. Which meant they were staying another night. Lena looked at the cook setup and the depleted paper bag and did not say anything about that. I went back to the farmhouse and came back with a pot of beans I had made the day before and a pan of cornbread from the morning and 2 cans of things from the back of the pantry shelf. I set them on the truck's tailgate without explanation. She looked at the food. Then she looked at me. "That's your food," she said. "There's more," I said, which was partly true. There was more in the sense that I could make more. There was not more in the sense of an abundance. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, "Thank you," and went to wake Clara for supper. We ate together in the last of the daylight. The Kansas sky was doing what it does in July at dusk, going colors that have no names in most places, the particular amber and rose of a sky that has a lot of dust in it and a lot of light going through the dust and produces something that would be beautiful if you didn't know what it was. Lena looked at it for a long moment after we finished eating. "Missouri doesn't do that," she said. "No," I said. "It's the dust." "I know what it is," she said. "It's still something." Clara was asleep again before it was fully dark, the way children sleep in the open air, quickly and completely. Lena and I sat on the truck's running board in the cooling evening and talked about the things that people talk about when they have been stripped of everything that isn't essential, and what remains is the person. She talked about Daniel, her husband, not with grief, but with the honest accounting of someone who has already done the grief work and arrived at the other side of it, where the person is just a person again, a specific man with specific qualities, remembered plainly. She said he had been patient in a way she sometimes wasn't, and funny in a way she missed every morning, and that he had been wrong about the farm being salvageable, and she had known it 6 months before he did and had not said so, and that she was still not certain whether she should have. I told her about the creek, about my grandfather naming it, about watching it go. I had not told anyone this, not because it was a secret, but because there was no one to tell it to who would understand what it meant to watch a named thing die. She understood. I could see it in the way she was listening. "My father had a name for the South Field," she said. "We thought it was strange, but I understand it now. People name things they love," I said. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Yes, and then they have to watch what happens to them." I went back to the farmhouse that night and lay in the dark and thought about the morning, when I had been walking the dry creek bed and had run out of arguments. I thought about what it had taken from her to be sitting at that creek bend for 3 days without asking anyone for help, because she had not asked. She had been waiting for someone to come past, which is different. Asking puts the cost on someone else. Waiting puts it on yourself. She had been bearing the cost herself entirely for 3 days with a 7-year-old child, and she had not performed the difficulty of it, and she had not minimized it. I thought about Daniel, who had known the farm wasn't salvageable and had stayed anyway, and what that cost a man, and what it cost the people around him. I thought about my own Northfield, and the seed money, and the September mortgage, and what I was doing, and why. And I thought about 43 cents, which I had found out about from Clara, who had mentioned it with the unself-conscious accuracy of a child reporting facts, the way she mentioned everything. 43 cents and a broken axle and 3 days in July, and she had been quiet and capable and unresentful of the situation, and had divided the beans with fairness, and had given Clara the larger portion without making it obvious. In the morning, I made breakfast before going back to the creek. Eggs and coffee and more cornbread, more than I would have made for myself, and I carried it down with the tools. Lena was already up. She had redone her braid and washed her face in something, and her coat was folded on the truck seat. She looked at the breakfast and then at me. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "I know," I said. "You keep doing things you don't have to do," she said. I set the food on the tailgate. "The axle needs about 2 hours of work this morning, and then I'll follow you to the highway. Pratt's 14 miles. Fowler on Commerce Street will give you a fair price on making the repair permanent." She was quiet for a moment. "And after that," she said, not quite a question. "After that, you'll be on your way to Bakersfield," I said. She looked at the dry creek bed, at the cottonwoods, at the bleached Kansas sky. Then she looked at me with the dark, watchful eyes that shifted between brown and green depending on the light, and in the morning light they were more green than I had seen them. And she said, "I've been thinking about something since last night." I waited. "My sister's room," she said. "It sleeps too. She has said so in her letters." A pause. "It wouldn't sleep 3. I looked at her. She was looking at the creek bed. "I'm not asking you anything," she said. "I'm telling you a fact." "All right," I said. "The fact is that Bakersfield is 14 miles plus 1,400 more, and at the end of it there is a room that sleeps 2, not 3, and a town that has work if you can get to it before it's taken." She looked at me then, direct and clear and without performance. "And the other fact is that you have a farm with a mortgage coming due, and a north field that didn't come up, and a creek that hasn't run in 2 years. And those are facts too." I looked at the dry bed, at the sand that had been a creek bottom, at the cottonwoods that were still alive because their roots went deeper than the drought. "I've been trying to save this land for 3 years," I said. "I know," she said. "It may not be savable," I said. It was the first time I had said it out loud. It arrived in the air between us with the specific weight of things that are true, and that you have known for some time, and that cost something to say. She was quiet, not filling the silence, just letting it be. "That doesn't mean you have to go to California," she said after a while. "But it might mean you don't have to stay." I thought about my grandfather and the creek and the name he had given it, and the 50 yards between the bend and the homestead, and the 3 generations of Aldersons who had stood on this ground and called it theirs. I thought about what it means when a thing you have held on to is not the thing itself, but the idea of the thing, and what you do when you understand that. I thought about 43 cents and a woman who had been waiting without asking. I fixed the axle that morning. We moved the truck up the dirt road to the highway carefully, the wheel holding. Lena drove, and I walked beside the truck in case the hub shifted, which it didn't. At the highway, she stopped and rolled down the window. "Fowler on Commerce Street," she said. "Tell him Cal Alderson sent you," I said. "He'll give you fare." She looked at me for a moment. Clara was visible in the passenger seat, her 2 uneven braids, the faded yellow dress. She raised a hand at me with the seriousness of a child completing an important transaction. "The room sleeps too," Lena said. "That's all I said." "I heard you," I said. She looked at me one more time. Then she drove toward Pratt. I stood on the highway shoulder and watched the truck until it was small, and then until it was gone. And then I stood there a while longer. The Kansas morning was doing its thing around me, the heat beginning to build, the bleached sky holding its particular July quality, the dust haze sitting patient on the horizon, the way it had been sitting for 2 years. I drove back to the farm. I walked the north field. I stood at the dry creek bend where the truck had been and looked at the marks in the sand where the axle had rested and the stake hole where the canvas awning had been. Clara's sandal print was still visible near the cottonwood root where she had been sitting the day before. I went inside and looked at the farm ledger. I looked at the September mortgage date. I looked at the north field through the kitchen window. Then I went to the barn and got the come-along and the floor jack and put them away properly and sat at the kitchen table for a long time. The room sleeps too. I had not been the kind of man who leaves. My grandfather had not been. My father had not been. 3 generations of Aldersons who had understood their worth to be inseparable from this land, this water, this particular bend in a creek that no longer ran. But the creek had a name because someone had loved it enough to name it. Not because it had always run and would always run, because it had been worth naming. Maybe that was what mattered. Not the water, the naming. I found a piece of paper and wrote down the address my grandfather had given the property in the county records, and below it I wrote Fowler, Commerce Street, Pratt. And below that I wrote the number 1400. which was the miles from Pratt, Kansas to Bakersfield, California, on a road called Route 66 that people had been calling the Mother Road since before the trouble started. I folded the paper and put it in my shirt pocket. I did not make any decisions that afternoon. I am not a man who makes decisions in an afternoon. I walked the fence line and checked the cattle and made supper and went to bed. But in the morning, I packed the truck. I did not say goodbye to the land in any dramatic way. I walked the dry creek bed one more time in the early light, down to the bend where the cottonwoods stood in the sand, their roots running deeper than the drought. I stood there for a while in the early morning, listening to a Kansas that was quieter than it used to be. Then I got in the truck and drove toward Pratt. She was at Fowler's when I got there, standing in the garage bay watching him work the rear hub, her dark braid over her left shoulder, the canvas coat folded over her arm in the July heat. She saw me through the open garage door. She did not look surprised. Clara looked up from the fender she was sitting on and said, "You came." "I came," I said. Lena looked at me for a moment with the dark, watchful eyes that were more green than brown in the morning light. She did not ask why. She had told me a fact, and I had heard it, and I was here. That was the conversation. "Fowler says 2 hours," she said. "All right," I said. I went and got 3 cups of coffee from the place across the street, the first coffee I had paid for in 4 months, 30 cents, which was almost everything in my pocket, and brought them back, and we sat in Fowler's garage bay on the bench along the wall, the 3 of us, and waited for the axle to be made permanent. Clara told me about the road, about the things she had seen on Route 66 in 3 weeks of driving, the tent cities, the other children, the mountains she had seen for the first time from the pass into California that she had not known would be there. She said the mountains had been the most surprising thing. I told her I had never seen them. She said they were bigger than you expected. She said most things were bigger than you expected if you paid attention. I thought that was about right. We drove out of Pratt at noon, the 3 of us in Lena's truck because it was running better now. My truck behind us with what I had packed in the bed and nothing else. No farm equipment, no seed, no tools specific to that particular piece of ground. Just what a man needs and not more. Lena drove. I sat in the passenger seat. Clara was between us with her 2 uneven braids and her serious face, and the sandals with the left buckle replaced by a safety pin. The Kansas plains went by on both sides, flat and wide, and showing the marks of what the years had done to them. The abandoned farmsteads, the fence lines half buried, the soil cupped and cracked and patient. And through the bleached sky and the dust haze on the horizon, the road went west the way it had been going west for 2 years, while I stood on my land and watched the creek go dry. I had thought leaving would feel like failure. It felt like the ground moving under my feet, not collapse, just shift. The kind of movement that is the beginning of something rather than the end. At the Oklahoma border, Clara fell asleep between us with her head on my arm, which was not something either of us had arranged. Lena drove with both hands on the wheel and did not comment on it. After a while, she said, without looking at me, "The room sleeps too." "You mentioned that," I said. "I'm clarifying," she said. "2 adults. The parlor has a cot for Clara." "All right," I said. She kept her eyes on the road. The Oklahoma flatlands came up around us, not so different from Kansas. The same sky, the same dust, the same marks of the same years. "I'm not a woman who does things without thinking them through," she said. "I know," I said. "I thought this through," she said. "Since last night." I looked at the road ahead. 1,400 miles is a long time to sit beside a person. It is also, I was beginning to understand, not enough time. "I thought it through too," I said. "Since last night." She did not say anything else for a while. Clara slept. The road went west. The Kansas dust sat on the horizon behind us, patient as it had always been. Whatever came next would come next. For the first time in 3 years, I was curious about it.